gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades.
Welcome to Gas Masks and Hand Grenades. I'm your host, Jeff, and tonight, got a killer interview for you guys. I thought I was only going to have 4/5 of the band, but for a little while, it looks like I'm going to have the entire band. But tonight, I've got all of the members of one of the OG US Death Doom bands, DUSK, straight out of that hotbed of Doom Death, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Wait, is that true or just a typo? Well, I typed it, so let's find out and ask these guys themselves if Green Bay is the hotbed of Death Doom in the United States. Welcome, guys. How you doing?
Hey, we're doing good.
All right, we'll just pretend that we didn't already talk for a couple minutes. We always do this dance every time I have somebody else. Just pretend that we didn't already meet. But so I guess the first question I have to ask is Green Bay, Wisconsin, the hub of all Death Doom in the United States?
I would say probably not.
I thought maybe when you guys heard that, you probably look at each other like.
That's a great question, though.
You probably looked at each other like, "What the hell is this guy on?" Something like, "What's up with that?" So, no, I just thought it'd be a nice little funny way to introduce. So let me I'm gonna run down your names real quick here. Steve Crane, bass and vocals. You wanna wave to me, Steve? Hey, Steve. We've been in contact a bunch here. We've got Steve Gross, guitar and synth guitars. We've got Tim Bayer, yeah, guitar and synth. And then we've got the newbies in the band, kind of newbies. We've got Dana Ignarski on vocals, lead vocals, backing vocals. Did you do any backing vocals at the live?
Just vocals, female vocals.
You did the female live vocals. There you go. All right. Yeah. And finally, the real newbie in the bunch. He's back there hiding, which we didn't think we were going to have him, but he's going to join us for a little bit, as long as he can. And that is Dave Swanson, who you just joined the band recently, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How recently?
About 2 months before Maryland Deathfest.
Oh wow! So you've only been in the band 3 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Killing.
I'll start with you. How'd that come about, and when did you get that call? And how exciting was it for you?
Oh wow. Well, I have known Steve for a few years. I knew of the band for a while. One of my old bands, we had played some shows together a few years ago, and me and Steve will run into each other at shows sometimes in Chicago or whatever. And I think it was at the end of March. He just shot me a message and said they needed a drummer for these festivals coming up, and I was beyond stoked to get that message because I absolutely love the fucking band. So
cool. Dave broke the fuck rule, so we're good to go. We're all good to go. Now I can unleash. But so I think we should also mention too that if you guys would, the 3 original members, because you guys are the OGs, just put your hand up real quick so people know it's Steve, and Tim. Yeah. And you guys go all the way back to 93, which we're going to get to in a minute here. Dana, I want to bring you in real quickly here, because some of this early stuff's not going to really include you and Dave. So I'm not trying to keep you guys out, but I do want to get sort of a historical perspective, which kind of leaves you out, sort of. So
we're fully aware, definitely.
Yeah. So Dana, you joined in 2018, and how about give us the background on how that all came about for you? Because I believe you're probably the 3rd singer they've had. We're not doing the Spinal Tap thing here, I swear. Okay, but you are the 3rd female singer that they brought in to sing. But you're now a permanent member. So give me a little feel for what's up with how that came about.
She's actually the 2nd. And she joined when we kind of reformed the band right away. Steve knew her from where they live.
Well, and wait, okay, so who sang on Withdraw? Because I saw a different name.
No,
Stephanie.
that was Dana.
Yeah.
That was Dana.
Not divorced. Yeah.
They have that. Oh, you had a different name.
Yeah.
There we go. I didn't. You know, I swear it didn't. Well, this leads me to my good. This leads me to my point. Now, I got that, of course, from the internet. Of course, I do have what I didn't realize. You guys are going to laugh at this. So, at the show, obviously, I saw you at MDF, like I mentioned, and I was just completely blown away. And we're going to get that shortly here, but and I remembered listening to the EP probably. Man, I want to say it's probably going on like 15 years ago. It was quite a while back. And at that point in time, I didn't pick it up physically. I was going through some stuff, a divorce and all that kind of stuff. Didn't have a lot of money. I didn't pick it up. And then you know how it goes, man. Like we're inundated. And the further into technology we get, we're more and more inundated with music all the time. And I kind of forgot about it until I saw you guys were, going to be playing MDF. And my buddy Jimmy is like, that was our night, man, because we were – like all the killer death doom bands all in one place.
Right down the lineup for sure.
It was insane. But I wasn't really sure what to expect from you guys overall because I actually wasn't even aware that you had come back. I know. I'm sorry, I apologize. I really wasn't aware that you had come back and put this out, which by the way I didn't even open yet. I just got it in the other day. And this as well. So you can see it, but people can't. Sorry, here we go. So this had come out in 2023, and I believe this came out in 18, right? So you can see they're still in shrink. I've been listening to them on, I hate to say, I bought them, but I haven't opened them yet. But so I wasn't really aware that you were back. And when my buddy told me that you were playing, I'm like, really, man? Like, is it like the original band, or is it like just one dude, or what's the deal? Because we see that quite a lot in out there, like Foreigner. They have no original members playing. So, and when I saw you guys, like I had told you, I was completely blown away, and that's saying something based on the fact that you were in a line of 4 consecutive bands that are all kind of OGs, kind of all staples of that genre of music. And so it got me to thinking before you came on, I decided to sort of dig around into the origins of death doom. Now I like this genre a lot. It's probably one of my favorites, but by the same token, it's not all I listen to. I have 5,000 CDs and probably 2,000 LPs. I'm a bit of an addict when it comes to that stuff. And I listen to everything from jazz to pop to, everything. So I didn't really kind of wanted to see where you guys slotted in. So I kind of want to do this real fast, and then it'll lead to a bunch of questions. So my research experiment, I dug deep into the bowels of the most evil place on earth, i.e. the internet, okay? And to get sort of a perspective on the classic OG bands from 86 through 95. And so, about that decade. And here's a list of what I came up with. I came up with Sempiternal Death Rain. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them, a Dutch band. Very often thought to be maybe the OG, the grandfather sort of thing. The more I listen to them, the less I think that's true. But that was 86. Then, of course, we got Autopsy, who kind of do death, doom. They do punk. They do a little bit of everything, right? Paradise Lost, Winter, of course. DISEMBOWLMENT, Morgion, My Dying Bride, Anathema, Thurgothan, Skepticism, Saturnus, Avernus, Dusk, Mournful Congregation, and Shape of Despair. That was kind of the running order of how I saw the releases, and maybe not the inception of the band, but the running order of the band. So I guess my question, this goes out to Steve, Tim, and Steve. Were any of those bands at all influential in you guys choosing the path that you did when you created Dusk? And also maybe talk a little bit about, what you guys were doing before Dusk came together and coalesced into a unit.
Wow.
And anybody can start.
Bringing us to like 91, Steve and I think it was 92 when
92,
Steve joined the band I was in.
Background killed him.
And then that band broke up, and then Steve Gross's kind of idea about the death doom genre, listening to My Dying Bride, and we were kind of enamored by that. Tell me how you're Steve.
Yeah,
We're the
well,
one
My
who
Dying
kinda-
Bride, Cathedral, DUSK was in there for
You
that
have to
to us.
speak up, probably.
I thought I'm talking loud enough. I don't know, am I?
Yeah, it's a little hard to hear. You might want to just
Yeah.
talk a slight bit louder. But so some of those earlier bands in that list definitely were at least foundational cornerstones for you in
Yeah.
terms of what you were listening to.
For sure, it was My Dying Bride, Cathedral started out. That was definitely the big heavy hitters there. And Godflesh in there for obviously some reasons. And DISEMBOWLMENT came out with Transcendence. That just was a life changer there. That changed everything for us. That's why Majestic is kind of influenced heavily off that, as you can tell.
Yeah,
We're
little
just
bit.
slower, oomphier,
Yeah.
palm muting kind of playing.
A lot of that chugging, the heavy chugging sort of thing, right?
We got addicted to the chug.
Very much.
We're all addicted to the chug. That's why we're here, right? How about you, Steve C? I'll do Steve C and Steve Z or G. That way you'll know what I'm speaking to.
Yeah, for me, I was more like into like thrashy stuff and like thrash, just basically just getting into like more like aggressive death metal. And I actually was playing in a band that was doing that more of that style. And somehow like my band, we played up north in Green Bay, and it was back in the tape trading days, and we had made like this demo tape when we were like juniors in high school, and like I handed it out and like didn't expect anything of it, doing this and that, and I was like totally different style of musician back then, especially, and then through one of Steve's friends who had listened to this, he had talked to Steve, and those guys called me up, and they already had like the first song, Envision the Terror, written. And to be honest with you, I didn't know any of this existed.
Really?
And, the very first time that I heard like the opening synth part and just the super evil, like dissonant, oh my God, to this day, like I hear that when we're playing it or anything like that, to this day, I always go back to that very first day of the band, and I'm still enamored by it. I think it's brilliant. And I've went down a dark, deep dive doing all this, trying to find any kind of music that resembled it at all. So all of the bands that you listen to, like I'm in every one of them. All of the ones that you mentioned, like, because it was just something that like I said, I didn't know existed. And from the second I had heard what these guys were coming up with, I was all in.
You were all in, yeah. It's interesting you mentioned thrash, because I do feel like the EP has a little bit more of a thrashy vibe, obviously, than Majestic. There's more, it's more up tempo, a little speedier, but there's still, you start to hear the shift in maybe in this latter half of the album. Or the EP, sorry, you start to hear that shift more into what then Majestic becomes. I'm kind of curious, how did the EP come together? Like, what? And I'm always really interested in how young bands, at that time, and I'm gathering you guys are probably a little younger than me. I'm 59, so I'm not sure if I think you're probably younger than me, right? Am I right about that?
A little bit.
Little bit.
Yeah.
You're in the latter part of your 40s or early 50s. We'll just leave it at that. So you're in that same era. I'm in college when a lot of this stuff is coming out. You guys are probably, like you said, in high school. How did you, once you got together, and we should mention here too, your original drummer, could you say his name for me?
Shimron
Heemstra, was that it?
Yeah.
Okay, and he was with you all the way through until the Reformation, or right around the Reformation?
around the Reformation, and then just the idea was just to play a couple shows, and then he had kind of a health problem, so he was like, guys, I'd rather bow out. So we got our friend Sean from Green Bay, who took over for like 7 years.
Oh, okay, all right, for just live gigs mostly.
No, he was our drummer.
Oh, you said Sean. I thought you said John. Sorry, you said Sean. My bad. Yeah. So Sean Smith was the guy that came in for the Withdrawal.
He recorded Withdraw and Dissolve into Ash and played shows with us.
So I guess where I was going with that was that how, for the EP, how did you guys manage to put that together? Because that was kind of, from what I gathered in my research and what I dug around for, was that pretty much a self-financed thing?
The first one?
Yeah, absolutely it was. Yeah. Majestic was as well.
So
yeah, we recorded it at a local studio in Green Bay, and we just went in and put down the stuff as fast as we could because we were completely broke.
Yeah.
Trying to get it out there, you know.
It's one of those deals where you're like, "Hey, Mom, can I borrow $500 to make
Exactly.
this EP?" I know those days. I was there. I did that myself once. Pretty sure I didn't pay him back either. So were all those songs? Did you write those all together then, or is there? I guess one of the things I kind of want. It looks as though Steve, you write all the lyrics.
Yeah,
you're the singer, obviously. Is it a situation where, Tim, you come in with a riff, or Steve, you come in with a riff, and you guys work as a band on them, or do you come in with fully formed songs back in those days?
Back then, we did just put a lot of riffs together because we were able to hang out more, so we were able to jam more. But nowadays, we record riffs and send them to each other and see what we can do with them first.
Okay, so
put together something to present the band, like, so they're not bored when they're listening. They're not going to listen to one riff for 3
Right. So you did a lot of it in rehearsals. You created these songs in rehearsals.
The older stuff, yeah. And then even the newer stuff. I mean, we always refine everything. Nothing's set in stone.
Steve, did you want to say something there?
No, I was just taking it all in.
I thought Steve G was about ready to say something.
No, I didn't know. I just breathed heavy.
What do you do, Steve Gross? Do you do riffs, and what do you do?
I write riffs.
Riffs. Well, let me ask you this. Now, how did you guys all you didn't go to high school together? You didn't go to school together? Did you meet through the scene that I was joking about? Or?
Giant Green Bay metal scene. That's how I was just a little kid. I was like 16, and Steve was in a band, and they were like 18 years old, and they could drink beer, and that was a big deal to me.
Oh yeah.
Their friend's band needed a guitarist, so I tried, and I actually got in the band, and then I had to use Steve's half stack for my first show ever at City Center Theater.
That's why he sounded so good.
And he didn't know because our friend Bill, who went to high school with him, didn't tell him. So he was mad at me the first day we ever met. Yeah. I had to use his half stack, which was one of those stupid carpeted fenders.
Oh, and you like drowning everybody out then, or what?
Steve was my I looked up to him because he was like one of the first in our city to have a Navy wireless.
Oh my
and he could walk around the stage. And I was like, wow, look at that guy.
Damn, he's cool.
So, but yeah, that's
wow.
But then his band broke up kind of, and then he wanted to join our band because we were more death metal.
Steve, what was your thrash band? What was your thrash band called?
Acheron, and then we changed our name because there was another Acheron around.
Yeah, that Vincent Crowley has the Acheron. That dude, yeah.
We changed it to a Keldamo when he joined, and then that band didn't last because our singer Bill joined the band Crawl, who is playing tonight.
Yeah.
And that's the guy who gave Steve's tape to Steve.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you this: since you guys are in Green Bay, how far is Milwaukee away from you guys?
Hour and a half.
So, did you catch any of those early Milwaukee Metal Fest back in the day?
Yeah, we played the one in '95.
No, 95.
Yeah,
95. Yeah.
Wow.
I went to every single one of them from the third one on.
No way.
First 4 or 5 of them I went to, and then
That's crazy. And so the worm kind of turns because you guys kind of played there this back in May.
Show there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute here. But so okay, so the EP comes out, and the little bit of information that I could really glean from it was that initially, I guess it was just a tape, right? Was it just for tape trading purposes initially, or was it actual press? Was there a pressed thing when it first came out?
We ourselves, and then Cyber Music.
The debut, we printed up 500 copies, I think, originally.
Yeah, and then
500
Cyber Music.
500 CDs, okay.
And tapes were taped for just me when I recorded tapes. I just recorded tapes for people and just started taping, giving them
Steve bought a rubber stamper at Instaprints and with our song titles on it.
I was a manufacturer back then. That's me.
Yeah.
So if anyone's got one of those tapes and they're selling it for $100, then give me them.
I know, man. Do you have some? I'll buy one. I'm not at 100 though. I'm not gonna go that far.
Oh, it's hilarious, man. It's funny.
That that is kind of crazy, and it kind of brings up a later question. But I mean, doesn't it kind of blow your mind when you dip on eBay and you see, like, for example, that Sempiternal Death Reign? Somebody's got one of the original vinyls from '86, and he wants like $500 for it. It's like, and somebody will buy that. That's the crazy part. Somebody will. Steve's gonna buy it.
I've been thinking about it.
Well, you'll have to bid against me, Steve. Okay, so the EP comes out, and what kind of a buzz does that create for you, other than locally? Does it create a buzz beyond the Wisconsin scene, or I mean, are you getting mails and stuff?
A buzz away from the Wisconsin. Green Bay didn't care that there was a death metal, doom metal band.
Yeah, we were well ahead of the time in Green Bay. We were well ahead of it. Europe liked us a lot back when EP came out. Yeah. Europe welcomed it big time. America was still far beyond that. They were well behind. I mean, they were back in, like, I don't know, they just didn't accept that kind of music at the time as much as that Europe did. Europe opened up their arms quite well to us. That's why Europe is coming up shows going to be pretty neat.
Well, it's interesting because you're putting that music out in a time where, in particular music, you're going head to head with probably nu metal, the vestiges of nu metal, and more of the grunge Pantera sort of thing, right? So you guys are like, you know, I mean, there's still the riff, okay? We'll give them that. And I love a lot of, I'm not gonna lie, I love a lot of the grunge bands. Soundgarden and Alice are two of my favorite bands. But was that why? Do you think that was a little bit more why the European audience, who seems to be a little more up on shit, better than the American audience is? It's also a much bigger country. But go ahead.
Back then, you know, I think America's caught up now. Well,
the internet, you know, I mean, that was pre-internet too. So Dana, hang in there. Dana and Dave, I swear I'm going to get you guys in. Just hang in there. I kept going through these questions. I'm like, shit, it's going to be like the back half before I get to those guys. So bear with me a little bit here.
There's some of the history I probably don't even know about that, you know. So,
well, I guess that to tie up the EP era, how much live stuff were you guys doing at that point in time? Like, were you playing regularly, or was it an irregular thing, or?
I mean, once in a while, a few monthly shows here and there.
Maybe 10 shows a year.
Okay.
And then like Chicago, Minneapolis,
Milwaukee
area, like.
And you never got over to Europe, if I understand correctly, right? Okay. And I know that's a goal, so we'll get to that shortly here. But and I would think you guys would do really well over there, I would think too, because they appreciate, particularly UK. And that's, you know, the UK and maybe France and those areas there. So we then move on to the next album. Now, again, you said it was self-financed. We move on to the album, rather, I should say. And the album Majestic Thou and Ruin, which I'm going to ask a tricky question here, and you can pass on this if you like. But in my research, I ran into something. Do you know what I'm going to ask you?
No. But I just love the preface.
Well, because you may not want to answer this question. You may not want to comment at all. But in kind of looking at all these bands, I came upon the fact that Morgion has an album that looks a lot and sounds a lot like your album title. You're aware of that, right? 1996?
Yeah, I'm aware of that now. At the time, ours came out before.
It did, yes. which I was kind of curious what your.
I
if you had a
didn't
take on
know
it.
anything about them or their band until probably like 2 years after Majestic Thou and Ruin came out.
Yeah.
I love the band, and it's a great album.
Oh yeah,
I
it is.
just think it's kind of weird how we were both kind of like on that same vibe at the same time. You know what I mean?
I mean, like two of the words are exactly the same, and they're like,
Yeah.
That struck me because I don't own that album. I'm aware of the band, but it didn't really click until I was kind of digging deep. I'm like, whoa, check that shit out, man. That's pretty wild.
I don't know. I didn't know that. Where are these guys from?
It's a good album.
California.
Good album.
California. Yeah, it is good, and it's very much in the vein of the Death Doom, Paradise Lost kind
Honestly, I would venture that they probably had no idea that we had put our album out, and we had no idea they had put theirs out. That would be my guess, honestly.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you guys do any kind of advertising in any of the mags back then, like Kerrang or Brave Words or?
No.
More like fanzines, you know.
Fanzines, yeah, like underground.
Yeah, they may have run into it there. We're not dogging those guys. I just found that very interesting that literally the title of the album is almost the same, with the exception.
Wasn't Relapse distributing you guys though?
Yeah, we had
And they were on Relapse, I believe.
Yes.
The first one,
Yeah.
though, I think.
Yeah, it was just self-titled.
The self-title.
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah,
anyway-
I'm aware of the band.
We don't have to belabor that because I don't want those guys running across this going, those guys, what that kind of thing.
Well, if
I'm
we
a
had
big
the
fan of
internet
that,
back
so-
then, maybe
But
it
you
would-
guys owned it first, so it doesn't really matter at this point, right?
Yeah.
So I guess where I wanted to go with this next was you released Majestic Thou and Ruin in January. Well, Metal Archives just says all your stuff came out in January, the first two. Is that true, or do you recall?
When the hell
July of '95.
No, it was March.
No, I think it was close to like the beginning of March.
Okay.
We mixed it March.
I don't know.
We recorded
Somewhere in 95.
it in January.
It was around.
Well, see, that's why I said the internet is the bowels of hell, because you just never can trust anything, as we all know at this point. But so when you move on to do this album, and it's a 33-minute album, 4 tracks, and there is a decided, I believe, shift in the sort of the sonic landscape in terms of what you're doing. You're definitely slowing you're slowing down quite a bit.
Yeah.
And Steve, I think your vocal performance gets a lot more deathier on this than on the first album, because I still sort of hear semi-vestiges of maybe your thrash voice on that.
Yeah.
Just a little,
For
not
sure.
a lot, just enough, like death thrash, right?
Oh, you're totally right. Yeah.
And you come in here and you do these longer, more expansive tracks. They have samples of woodsy things and creeks bubbling and, loons and all that kind of cool stuff. Whatever kind of loons are out there in Wisconsin. I'm sure there's a lot of loons. But anyway,
They're actually red-winged blackbirds, but
okay.
that's
There
just
you
a
go.
fact for you.
I'm not what are they called? People that are into birds? There's a name for it. Weirdos? No, I'm just, there is a name for it. I forget the name of it. My buddy is one.
I know exactly what you're saying. I can't. It's right on.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
So what was the thought process? Did you guys actually have conversations as you're putting this? Again, are you hashing this out in the rehearsal room for this album as well, where you're creating the songs and Tim or Steve are coming in with a riff and you're working your way into these longer passages, or explain a little bit how that, is it more or less the same procedure that you used on the EP? You just expand on it.
I would say it was the same procedure, but we had like differing influences, and the riffs were just different, and then the songs just went in like a completely different direction. But as far as like the writing process, it was still just as natural as the very first EP. It was the same process. It was just vastly different material from what we did on the first.
Now, when you guys are getting together to do this, is this again together once a week or 3 times a week or 5 times a week or
Twice a week, and we used a Sanyo boombox to record on.
did you? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
think had
Oh,
good.
everybody did back then, man. I mean, a lot of those old Death demos that came out on the Relapse stuff were just
That's how we wrote our songs. We'd
okay.
listen to it for a week and probably make our changes.
And did you generally write the music first and the lyrics came later then, Steve?
Yeah, almost
Usually.
almost always. Yeah, there was a couple songs, can't remember which ones exactly, that the lyrics were pretty much mapped out, but even still then I made a couple changes once the songs were written.
All right, I'm gonna let the inner gear nerd in me come out because I haven't blown up my situation here, but you can see I'm a little bit of a guitar player too. There's a whole bunch of them all over the place, and I'm a gear nerd. All right, so I gotta ask Steve and Tim, how the fuck do you get that tone? What were you doing on this album in particular? And how did it differ maybe from the EP, which had a little? It's very similar, except of course on Majestic you're now incorporating the Roland GR1, I think it was.
We used that on both. The
You
Roland
did
GR1 was as that guitar synth that like you can make violins or oboes and all that kind of stuff on with your guitar. You remember those things, right?
Yeah, is it the foot pedal or the actual like the 707, the actual guitar that was a synth?
No, it's a little pickup you put on your regular guitar.
Oh, okay, it's the pickup.
Yeah, we had a
Extra
pedal board.
stupid chords along with it.
Yes, I remember. It's kind of like having an early piezo or something like that, except for it was a synth.
Yeah, and then we
Something,
had B boxes to go from synth to heavy or both, and it was just nothing ever worked all the time.
I was going to say live that would scare the shit out of me playing those back in the old day. I think
We had a couple mishaps live. I think like because we were tuned lower, there would be like certain frequencies that would like
It couldn't
interfere
track.
and it couldn't track. And
Oh yeah, so it would overlap weird. Yeah, yep.
There's a YouTube video of us playing Morning Shadow at Kutzka's Hall. It's called, and Steve's doing the intro, and you can literally watch him hit the string, and it goes there. It couldn't play with like those. With the
Oh
bigger-
man, the anxiety, the panic, right? Oh man. Well, tell me a little bit, real quick, about your actual amps that you were using then for the tone that you got. Were you using Mesas back then, or what were you using, or just Marshalls?
MPEGs, and then we used processors into them, which was dumb.
Wow.
So, but we got a weird sound out of it. So,
Wait, you were using Ampeg amps for guitars? I didn't even know they made. I thought they only made bass amps.
No, they make guitar amps. Old, like I think the SS 150, the H's, I think.
something like
the
that.
funny part is I was using a Mesa bass cabinet.
So wait, were they solid state? Steve Gross, were they solid state? Or? Oh, they were. Okay. Which really does give you a unique tone.
Yeah, they had a good clean tone. When you ran a processor through them, it had a good bite to them. So that's why I liked them. But they were just heavy as hell, and they had a thing called the Tower of Power. Remember that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good chainsaw sound, and I had more of this
it
like
was-
mush, like
My God.
mean sound.
Then to play a show and to, oh my God, it was work because that thing was heavier than hell. And it was.
It's interesting you brought that up, the buzzsaw, because there's a little bit, again, just a tiny little bit, if you're a tone nerd like I am, you can kind of hear a little bit of HM2 in there, but I'm guessing you weren't using an HM2, right? It's just how the amp was overdriving?
It was the
Yamaha processor?
I was using a Yamaha FX500 for the self-titled EP.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I was using. That's the buzzsaw you're hearing. I
Nice.
changed from Majestic to the Zoom 9050 at that point.
Oh, dude, I had a Zoom. It was the biggest piece of shit ever.
Yeah.
I hated that fucking thing. Sorry, Dana. I'm going to blast out an F word here. Yeah, man, I hated that thing. I'm using a quad now, and you guys are using, I think you're using fractals, right?
Fractal FM3s.
The three. Okay, all right. All right, we'll get off the gear stuff because it's total nerd shit there. But real quick, though, what guitars? I think, Tim, you're using a limited now?
Yeah, LTD.
What about you, Tim? Or I'm sorry, Steve?
There's my footboard.
Oh, nice. That's the Roland, right? Or Boss?
No, it's a Fractal FM3.
Oh, that's the
with
Fractal
wireless.
controller.
That's all
Okay.
I need. That's how easy it is.
Yes. Yeah, every one of my buddies had that. I went with a quad, and I feel like I need a fucking aerospace engineering degree to figure out what the hell I'm doing. Even though it's very the GUI is very easy to work. It's just I don't know what I'm doing with gear.
I actually have friends that work at Miller Electric. They're architecture guys, and then my other friend who works for Boeing and Raytheon. That's
Okay.
who helped me with my process.
Oh, they help you with your processor. Nice.
Yeah.
How about you, Steve? What are you using guitar wise, or what were you using? What are you using now? I couldn't tell from where I was standing.
I was using an LTD I got as a backup for ESP LTD, and now I'm I got a custom Hoppus Kaiser now I'm using. That's what I had in Maryland.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I got a Hoppus Kaiser. They're from Berlin.
Oh wow, I've never even heard of those before.
Yeah, Hoppus guitars from Berlin. They make metal guitars, if you didn't know.
It's actual like. You mean metal as in the metal alloy?
Like metal as in like heavy metal, metal.
Oh, as in heavy metal. Okay, right.
Like,
Yeah, I didn't know that because from where I stood, I thought maybe you might have been using a VGA or an Aris. What do they call it? The Ormsby.
sides, yeah, whatever, yeah.
Or an Ormsby because that headstock looked kind of funny there. All right, we'll get off the fucking nerdy bullshit now. Sorry about that. Well, I don't want everybody out there to be like, God, this is ridiculous. Although, Steve, I should give you a chance to throw out what you play. Were you playing Spectre?
Warwick.
Oh, Warwick. Okay. And still using the Mesa, or did you graduate?
I have a Mesa cabinet. I use a dark glass. I just got a dark glass.
The orange, right?
No, it got the dark glass microtubes.
Oh, that's a Mesa?
No, it's not. I just use a Mesa cabinet now.
Okay, but dark glass, I've never heard of them before. Is that a bass head?
Yeah,
primarily.
Is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that also
design?
That's a digital too, or no?
Say that again.
Is that a digital processor?
No, actually, it's not.
Two.
Yeah, it's solid state. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry, we have a tiny little bit of overlap, and I'm yakking too much. So, Dave, what set do you use? We'll get you in here a sec, quick. What drums do you use?
Right now, it's just a Pearl export.
Oh, we'll show it to you.
It's right behind you.
There it is.
Right
There
here.
it is.
I gotta stand up anyways for a minute.
Nice.
It's just a black Pearl export. It gets the job done. Double
Nice,
bass.
man. You killed it. You killed it at the MDF. And you've been in a bunch of other bands. Are you in other bands as well as Dusk, or no?
Right now, I play bass as well. I play bass in a band called Lethal Shock. That's more like kind of old school metal with definitely some extreme metal influences. Kind of like Motorhead, Destroyer 666 kind of type thing. And also drumming with a band called Rubizol. It's more kind of a black metal leaning.
Hold on.
Yes.
One of my buddies was the drummer for Rubizol. Do you know Tyler?
I sure know Tyler, yes.
Tyler's a good buddy of mine, bro.
He's
Real good buddy of mine.
I've known him for many years.
Holy
since
shit! How about that?
MySpace days. And he's how I got involved with Rubizol. I started out as just playing bass and long distance because they're from Alaska. And so I started playing bass with them, and then Sean ended up moving to the Chicago area, and Sean's the guitarist and vocalist in Rubizol, and so we've been kind of operating out of the Chicago area for the time being, and I ended up taking over on drums for that band.
Yeah. By the way, guys, I don't know if you see the chat, but I got this troll that loves to follow me around and get on me. He's from Omaha. He's kind of a douchebag. All right.
Martin McGoof.
Yeah, he's a total fucking loser. Anyway, so Dane, I got to bring you in here. I want to ask you again how you got in the band, because I may have missed that. So how did you end up joining the band, and what's your equipment of choice? Oh, I think it's a microphone. So you can let me know what microphone you're using in case there's any weird microphone geeks out there.
All right. Yeah, Steve and I have been friends, I would say a good 8-9 years at that point. And he came over. I think we had dinner. I just had my my daughter. It wasn't too long before that. We're all just hanging out, and he's like, asked me to sing in the band, and that was the Transfiguration. And I'm like, really? What do you think? You know? And I processed all of it, and he's like, I had to pick you, you know, because he knew I sang. I was a theater major.
Okay.
And in college, in high school, college, really into the theater scene, and you know, dropped out. Wasn't for me. But he's like, I thought you'd be crazy enough to do it, and I'm like, heck yeah, you know. I really enjoy theater and just all the theatrics of it. I fell in love with the music.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask you, because, you know, typically, this is going to sound like a misogynist, weird thing to say, but I don't mean it that way, but typically this isn't like a chick's kind of music, you know, for the most part. I mean, when my ex and I would, you know, she'd jump in the car and I'd have my show on, she'd be like, oh my God, please turn it off, you know, that kind of thing. But were you ever a metalhead before you joined the band, or were you dabbling in metal at all?
Not really. Totally new to the genre. I did like the early Black Keys. I was really into them. I liked more of that raw feeling. I liked some weird band from Clan Zoo that kind of, it was just like, my music taste is everywhere.
Right.
Still, of course, like show tunes too, jazz, anything but country. But I do appreciate the intensity. And I've grown to love the genre, and going through the years and educating me on just the main influence of the band has been really fun. And then falling in love with all of the bands that they've been in love with. And that was like the nucleus of what started everything. You know, all the influence has been a really fun journey for me.
That's super cool. I'm going to get to you a bit more here when we get to the last album, but I kind of wanted to wrap up Majestic Thou. So one of the things that I've read, and there aren't a lot of interviews with you guys out there, so I'm really glad, kind of honored that you would jump on with me and do this. And kind of, I'm not a huge channel, obviously. I'm not one of these 20,000, but I'm a slow grower. It's been, you know, progressive, and I do get a lot of pretty cool, you know, bigger names and things like that to join me. I have a lot of friends in the music industry, and so I'm honored that you guys do this. So I'm glad that I'm able to help in one little tiny way, if at all. But what I read, the few interviews that I did read, and primarily they're with you, Steve C. You talk about the fact that Majestic, you know, it's really kind of highly regarded as one of those underground classic albums from American Death Doom, because there aren't a lot of American Death Doom bands. I mean, there's a handful of those ones that I talked about in that list, like Winter might be maybe the OG from this era, but what is surprising to you guys, maybe individually, the three OG guys, what's surprising to you about that when you hear someone or you read it somewhere and you find out, oh, it's like this underground current of this album is really super well thought of and highly regarded? Like, so Steve G, I'll start with you. Give me your thoughts on that.
Off of Majestic being,
yeah, Majestic. Because pretty soon we're going to take a hiatus. We're almost at the hiatus. So I'm kind of curious about what your thoughts are when you read that, or you read a review of it and people use those terms. Do you just kind of blow it off like, yeah, whatever, or is it like, wow, that's pretty trippy, man?
It's great to hear people review it, and then when they are being honest about it and then they really like it, and that's what's really cool. We can reach somebody and it actually touches them in a way that they're going to like cherish it for quite a while. You know, when you like something, you keep it around. It's amazing to us that our music is still being considered 30 years later. I mean, I knew when we wrote this stuff back in 94, 95, it was ahead of its time. And I'm still true to this day. It's like, I think it's still holding up to this day. It's amazing that, yeah, people still regard it as it's still heavy. It's really, 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 really great.
It's still fun to play, too.
It's still fun to play.
Yeah, you guys look like you're having a good time at MDF. I want to add something on there. I get to you guys in a minute here. Steve, you mentioned something that kind of was a point lower in my questions here, but one of the things with that Roland guitar synth sound that you kind of, I don't know if pioneered is the right word, but you're definitely one of the OG beginner bands that ever did that, right? And what's crazy about it is now I hear that sound in a lot of modern death doom bands. For example, Worm. I'm sure you guys know Worm, right?
Yeah.
And Phil's a buddy of mine, good friend of mine. But I'm like, every time I hear that sound, I'm like, where have I heard that sound before? Like, where have I heard that spooky, cave dripping, weird, warbly sort of sound? And then when I saw you guys, it's like, oh fuck, that's where I heard it. That's where I knew it from. You know, bands like Worm. I think you could probably say even like Incoffination, maybe. There was another big one that I was thinking of that, and I'm sorry, I'm old, so I have to hit my notes here. Well, I'll come back to it because I don't want to hold it up too long. But is it kind of weird to you when you think about it and go, oh, that's, you and Tim look at each other and go, dude, that's the sound that we kind of came up with,
Weird.
I don't know. We're just
came up with it. It's just what we use, and all of a sudden, if it's still being used by other people, or they're kind of using it too, it's weird that we influence someone else to use something like that.
Steve C, what's your take on the Majestic, the kind of staying power of it, and the fact that it kind of became there kind of came a call for this to be reissued, and I believe Crypt, is that who reissued it? They reissued it in 2017 on vinyl and CD because we talked about this earlier about CDs and OG presses of things going for stupid money. It was really hard to find this. And so what's your thoughts on that album? And I won't go into it track by track and everything because, people just need to go out and listen to it. It's, and all the links are in the description. They can find it. I just picked up this from Shadow Kingdom, I believe I got it from. I need to get the CD yet for my car, but yeah. And I got one of the Swamp Green ones, which
those are hard to find already.
What's that?
Those are hard to find already.
Well, I think you had a couple at MDF.
Yeah, we brought a few.
And I was one of those dudes that's like, nah, man, I'm here to listen to music and drink. I'll pick that shit up later. And when I went back to pick it up, it was all gone. The shirts were gone. I was like, fuck, man. I kind of blew my chance. But I don't at MDF, and you guys know because you were there. Did you stay just the night, or did you stick around a little bit?
No, we stayed pretty much the whole thing.
Shit, I can't believe I didn't run into you guys, man, because I was looking for you to see if you wanted to do this, but I just didn't. But I also was just a little drunk some of the nights. I was going for the cheap.
By each other 10 times.
We probably did. Yeah. I started with beers, but after like blowing like $60 on beers, I'm like, fuck this, man. I'm going to gin and tonics. Way more bang for my buck and a lot cheaper. So we probably did pass each other dozens of times. But so Steve, go ahead on this album then.
My only thought is it's just like it's super humbling, super baffling. I mean, I know we took our time and we really tried to make something special, and we were literally kids. You know what I mean? And it's just so crazy to think that anyone, like Steve said, something that we wrote when we were literally kids 30 years ago, that anyone would say anything about it being cool in this era it's super humbling. And we just want to thank all of our fans, that put it out online and kind of gave it a resurgence and all that, because we would have never gotten back together if had this not been reissued and people were asking us to play. And we're very thankful to be back at it. Like you said, when we played in MDF, like that was like there was like something shifted in our band. Like we're like closer. Something about playing that album. There is something special about
100%
piece, and it's just that was the very first time we ever played all the songs in a row. Much less
no kidding.
Songs in a whole set.
Yeah,
we've never even played all 4 songs in a set before, and it was just like something. It was just something really special for all of us, and we're just thankful.
Well, to add on to that real quick, then I'll come to you, Tim. I gotta say, did you have your own light guy, or was that their light guy?
A little bit of both.
Man, because the lights for you guys were fucking out of control. Cool, man.
Yeah, they were
just were like, they were transportative. They made me. I was not that loaded yet because it was fairly early in the night. I didn't get loaded a lot, but I'm downplaying that a little bit. But I didn't run into you guys. So, but no, I had a good buzz, but I wasn't like wasted or anything. And I just kept like looking at the whole. I got a lot of pictures of you guys, and I videotaped all but maybe one song, I think.
You got about 5 hours to talk about MIDI?
MIDI? No, I don't want to talk about MIDI. I don't understand. I'm too stupid to understand it. But let me put it this way, man. The tone was crushing, man. Like, I think that was their house sound guy, though, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna have to kidnap him. Yeah,
dude, that guy fucking ruled, man. That's
what you're doing there
for sure.
Yeah, sure.
Your sound was just it was massive. It just sounded like worlds colliding. And then coupled with whatever your guy and the house guy were doing light wise, it was perfect. And then to cap it all off, Dana comes out and just kind of just blows the place away. You were amazing. I'm not trying to be weird. I'm just saying, like, my buddy and I were looking at each other like going, whoa, dude. You know, and you were up against, you know, there was another female singer later in the night in Shape of Despair who was amazing. But I just thought you guys, something, you know, Steve, you said it's something clicked. Well, I agree, because it clicked with me to the point where we just couldn't stop talking about it that night. When we got back to our hotel room, because I live an hour from Baltimore, but I was staying with a guy from Denver and a guy from Cali and a guy from Arizona, and, you know, all bunking up, all weirdo metalheads, you know. And we get back to the room and we're like, dude, man, fucking Dusk, what the hell? You know, that's just like what we were like an hour and a half, you know, it was super cool. But Dana, how was that walking out on the stage? Were you nervous at all?
No, excited.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think this venue was bigger than the venue I had played in college and in high school, and it had a couple balconies. But yeah, I think that
venue holds
100, right?
That venue holds 2,500. Wow. I don't think it was like completely full, because you could, on the outsides where the bars were, you could kind of move. But upstairs and in the middle, I got to gather there was at least 1,200, 1,500 people in there probably. And it was, you know, we were all up against each other. It was pretty packed. And then, and I'm going to sound like a really old man here. I hate to say it, but I am an old man, so I'm allowed to do this. Some dude started a pit right in front of me. I'm like, come on, man. That's my old man creeping out of me, where I'm like, dude, come on, fucking. You know, there were some young kids that had way too much energy and they're slamming into me, and I'm just like, get out of here, you know. But because I want to watch the show, I've never understood that dynamic, but that makes me sound kind of like a weenie. I don't know. Maybe I am. I don't know. But Tim, what's your take on the album? And then we're gonna move on to the hiatus real quick, and then we'll wrap up with the
question. That was what, 20 minutes ago? About how long?
That was 20 hours ago. Sorry. What's your feel and take on how Requiem is kind of looked at as kind of this lost classic of the genre?
How Majestic is?
Or Majestic, I'm sorry. What did I say?
I'm just like Steve.
Requiem,
I'm humbled too. I can't believe it. And then I just love playing this stuff. I'm just happy to always be able to play this.
Now, how long ago did the guys from MDF reach out to you? Like, how long did you know you were doing the show?
Oh, it was several months.
July
before.
Yeah. Oh, almost a year before. Yeah.
Time. Yeah.
So you had it dialed in
last year, sometime around this time last year.
Well, what happened at Milwaukee then? Was it a MIDI thing?
I think
because the reason I ask is one of my buddies was there, and you were the band he was most looking forward to seeing, and he's like,
Only
"You
played
got like 10 minutes, man."
Tell them we're sorry. There was a lot of technical issues. There was a problem with the bass drum mic. That was one of the biggest ones.
It didn't work, and they didn't have
There
one.
were two different bass drum mics. So every time he hit his bass drum, all you had was like this crushing, crazy.
Rap
It
song.
was just a low, like
Rap
droning, bassy rumble, and it didn't even sound like that there was a mic inside the left kick
It was
drum.
weird.
And the drummer previously had a single kick, so I played with two bass drums. So we brought the second one on, and they had to, set up another mic for it, and
Lack of power too.
There was a lack of power.
Oh, really?
There's
Yeah.
like
stage.
one outlet on my side of the stage to plug
Wow.
in, like
Yeah.
two on
And
stage
And
left.
I'm hit doing the sound check for the kick drums, and I'm only hearing the right. I'm not hearing the left, and there's no talk back from the sound guy. And then the monitor guy is telling me that it's on, and I'm like, I'm not hearing it, and I'm like, then eventually I don't know how much time has passed, and well, we got to just play. So
And then Steve's mic didn't work.
and then the vocal mic didn't work. So it was something beyond our control, and we did what we could and did our best to.
Yeah.
We got for 2 songs.
You guys use in-ears, I'm assuming?
No,
Oh, you don't? Okay, wow.
we were set up in
So
the
no
9
click?
minutes
No
out of
click?
the 15
I
they
use a
gave
click.
us.
Oh, you do use a click. Okay.
For the drums, but these guys they're relying on stage monitors.
Wow. Shit. Yeah, that's pretty bad when you can't hear the kick.
We
man.
were all set up and ready to go, and we had 15 minutes to set up. We were ready to go in 9, and even David had to set up. He had to go and set up a kit, which other people tore down, which they shouldn't have. But anyways, he did all that. We did all that. We were ready to go, but they could not get certain things to work through the PA.
Yeah.
I timed it. It took us 9 minutes to load.
Wow.
Yeah, we were like this.
We were on
it.
Damn. Well, the good news is you guys missed the debacle at MDF because, well, I guess you probably knew because you were there. But the power went out.
That
we
was
were in the building.
that was crazy.
Were you there for Negative Plane?
But yeah.
Yeah. Fucking
Yeah,
weird.
Skepticism. I ended up leaving without realizing that they were going to play at a different stage. So
Well, the bad part of that was I went out because I really wanted to see them.
yeah.
And it literally took them an hour to get them up and running. And it was, by the time that happened, this was a cooler MDF than usual in terms of temperature. It's usually a little bit warmer.
Yeah.
And it was cold, and I didn't realize it. That was Thursday night? No, that was Friday night. And by the time I got back to my room, I had started to get sick, and I made it just through the festival till Monday, and I woke up and it was like all hell unleashed on me. It was not COVID, allegedly, but I took 4 tests, and I would swear to God I had COVID because I was sick for 3 weeks. I couldn't get out of bed for 2 weeks. It was
Oh, man, that's
pretty rough. But that particular set, I felt bad for Skepticism because people just kept leaving as they were trying to get this thing up and running. And by the time I left, there was maybe only like 200 people standing there because it was almost 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
A lot of drunk metalheads.
that's horrible.
Long
Yeah,
day, man.
All right,
I
so
know stuff happens for sure, but
So
we were the victim of it once, and
Yeah.
hopefully it won't happen.
you
for
just
a while.
left the stage then, and that was kind of it.
Well, we tried to play another song in
They cut us off.
Milwaukee, but they wouldn't allow us to because
They walked on the stage and literally told us.
Yeah, they walked on the stage and she
we
said, "No more,
actually
you're done.
started our third song,
You're done.
and then they turned off our power and told us that we were done.
Oh, we had to also restart our computer. I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's a bummer. Hopefully, you get an invite to come back and do it again.
That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
We'd love to
Um,
give each
We
other a
didn't
chance.
want to complain or anything on like social media or anything. We'll send them an email and see what we can do.
Yeah,
While we're on the topic, speaking of shows, you have a show coming up, right?
A
A
couple.
couple?
August. We've got one.
we have one in August, and,
Play.
and then we have one in September.
And they're local shows or no?
One is in Milwaukee in August, and then September is Killtown Deathfest in Copenhagen.
Oh, so you are getting over then?
Yeah.
Is Killtown? That's David from Undergang, right? Yeah. Cool guy. He's a cool dude. I wanted to ask one more gear nerdy question. What are you guys tuned to? You tuned to C or B?
A standard.
A standard.
You're an A. I've never gone that low, man. That's too low for me. You're way too heavy for me, man. That's why I couldn't figure it out, because I'm like, man, this sounds super freaking low. That's so. And you're playing sevens or sixes?
Six-string baritones.
Six-string baritones. Okay, all right, cool. All right.
Back in the day, we couldn't get a baritone though, and we used to have long strings, and that's maybe
got all that floppy. You got to adjust your neck big time. You got to mess with your neck a lot. Do you guys play with fixed bridge, or are you using fixed bridge or no?
There was no such thing as a set that worked.
Back in 94, 95, where we had to use bass strings for the low strings because they didn't have sets like they do now.
Right.
Which we had to make custom sets up, and it cost like $25 to get a set of strings through that. It's all separate strings. Thank God they got those sets now.
You bring up a point that I wanted to touch on that I'd forgotten about. Again, another kind of nerdy guitar question thing. But you guys don't typically play solos at all.
Not at all.
And I'm curious, give me the take on that. The two guitar players. Was it to be sort of anathema?
Can I answer?
Yeah, answer, Steve. I want to hear Steve's answer. Hold on, I want to hear Steve C's answer. You guys are all laughing.
No, I'm just messing around. This has been like a joke since we started the band.
Oh, really?
Steve Gross was like, I will never play a solo, otherwise I will leave this band.
No shit. Nice. Then you're kind of the anti.
And this guy, he wants to throw one in on the next album so bad, but I just know that Steve will leave and the band will be over again.
So in other words, Steve C, you're kind of Switzerland in this whole thing. Yeah. Steve G, I have to commend you, man, because most of us fucking guitar players just want to wank all day long. So that's very cool. Very, very cool.
I'm going to create a riff, though, that's going to be so complicated. It'll be like a solo, and he'll have to harmonize with it. But he'll be tricked into playing it.
Yeah, you're going to trick him by throwing some fucking crazy Toast and a Bossy lick. Just to get you guys out of here in about 20 minutes or 25 minutes or so, I wanted to tap on and get into the latter half of the reformation, but I did want to kind of touch on the band splitting. And Steve C, you left the band, I believe it was 96. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You've kind of touched on it a little bit. I mean, was there a particular reason? Were you guys getting along, or were you not getting along, or was it more a question of you just were frustrated by non-movement, maybe?
No, I wasn't frustrated at all. I've loved these guys since the day I met them. This is everything that had to do with me. I was in a really crazy, dark place. And I had a lot going on in my life. And I needed something. And I had some sort of a spiritual born again experience, and it reached the point to where I could not play, and it was they didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. To this day, I can't understand it. Me and Steve Gross, lifelong buddies, it really put a wedge in our life for a long time, man. Even when we got back together, me and Steve had to have a I love you, bro moment. And he, finally broke down and forgave me because he had stuff going on in his life. I had all kinds of crazy stuff going on in mine. But, thankfully, we hashed it all out and Steve Gross didn't kill me that day. And here we are now, But yeah, at the time, man, there was no other option for me to leave.
So it was kind of a Jason Segel, Paul Rudd moment. I love you, man.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that cool, but
the death metal.
It was
the death metal version. Yeah,
it was to me because I have always cherished Steve, and I know how much I heard him through all of that. I really did, you know. And so I was just thankful, you know, that he, you know, was able to kind of like see like why I did what I did.
And you did some missionary work for a little while, right? You went to Africa?
I went to Africa for like a month and did a bunch of crazy stuff like in the bush. Started a new church in Rwanda after the war. Did some famine relief and building and all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, it was
Very
a
cool.
good time. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That kind of leads me back to Majestic for one point that I missed here. And I hate to admit now, as an old dude, I don't really read a lot of lyrics anymore. And I know that's sacrilegious to say, but a lot of times in death metal, you can't understand what the fuck they're saying anyway. So it's like, you know, whatever, man. But I read all the lyrics to these albums, and there's definitely a spiritual vibe, in particular with Majestic, even before maybe you had your kind of moment. But so you were probably already
I was on that journey during this album for sure. Yeah.
Was it the quintessential, you know, why are we here thing, or was it more, was it deeper than that in terms of a God level type thing?
Maybe somewhere in between kind of thing. I think for me, it was just kind of just struggling to like find my purpose in this world, trying to just pen it out in like the most dramatic fashion ever, you know, and like, you know, going down different avenues of like what people think why we're here, you know, kind of thing like that.
Yeah,
but
you write really cool lyrics. They're very poetic in a lot of ways. They're very open-ended. They're very kind of nebulous. They're not directed in any way. So they're very kind of ethereal, like the music is in a lot of ways. So really well done, man.
Thank you.
I won't remember them to sing along with you, but they are cool, and it really struck me as, I think I kind of see what might have been happening here. Was Tim and Steve G, how were you feeling when Steve left? I guess we already know, Steve G, you were not feeling too cool about it, obviously. And you started Aphotic then a little while after that. What were you doing in the interim when the band sort of disintegrated? Were you guys just out of music for a while and just doing life, or what?
We were still right. Once Steve left, it definitely put a wedge there. It's like, because it's hard to replace a member like him. I mean, Craig, like I said, he's a poetic genius, and he freaking can play bass. So to fill that shit,
and he can play bass.
Yeah, and he can play bass.
Who's that guy on bass? You know, the guy that can't play guitar. That guy. No, just well, no, I kind of forgot. I apologize. You did bring in two guys to replace one guy, and sorry, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
tell me a little bit about that era.
Yeah, we still kept writing. We had Chad Denslow would sing, and then Keith Powers would play bass. That was
we had
some songs. I don't know what
things just fizzled out.
Yeah, just I don't know what, and then kind of turmoil in the band a little bit. You know, between some members, it just was kind of not as fun as it used to be. So I took it upon myself. I just decided to just leave Dusk in about, I don't know when the hell year it was, 20-something.
98.
I think it was 98, yeah.
I decided to leave 98. And at that point, Chad and Keith, we talked, and they said they still wanted to jam with me. So Keith wanted to jam. So that was basically Keith's band called Aphotic. We started that, did that until about 2005.
And there's some similarities there, but there's a little bit more. I mean, you did the Split, which came out, and I guess that stuff was, when was that recorded? Like 98, 97?
The Dusk stuff?
Yeah, the stuff that ended up on the Split.
97.
The stuff
okay.
High music. I think it was 97 we recorded that.
Okay. But it didn't come out until, I think, 2005, right?
Yeah, or 2004.
With Dark Symphonies, I believe, put that out, right?
It was on Curse Productions.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right. How, like, was it, because I still hear a pretty strong thread in there, even with the Aphotic stuff. It's a little mellower, maybe a little more dreamy in a weird way, sort of like more, less spooky doomy?
It's kind of Orthotic was Richie's or Keith's baby pretty much. I was just the guitarist in it, but my influences at that time were heavily into Catatonia. You can obviously tell that's what kind of the influences there.
Yeah.
And Richie, Keith, I call him Richie. So he was doing the sequencing thing. So we in the drum machine. So that's how we did our drums at the time. So we didn't have a drummer, so we used that, sequenced it with the keyboard, and that's how we got all our sounds through that. But that was Keith's baby that we ended up 2005. That was done. So after that, I was just basically just sitting around doing nothing until about.
So that was when everything was kind of over.
Yeah, that's when it was over with me. I was just basically packed it up and waited until Tim came by a few times trying to talk me back into getting Dust back going. So I think it was 2014, 2015, he started talking to me about it.
Yeah, I was pretty bored.
Well, then how did you get back with Steve C then? How'd that manifest?
We just saw each other at a show, and I was saying we should do that, and he's like, "Yeah." It didn't take much.
No, didn't. I was ready to.
You're missing it?
I was totally. I missed it from the day I left.
I was like, let's do a couple local shows, and now, like 10 years later, here we are.
Well, so Steve C, you come back into the fold, and you're engaged, and you want to do this again. But I read some things where you were struggling with your vocals a little bit. Like, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. When we first got back together, all the way up until right before, actually, like a couple weeks before I laid down my final vocals for Dissolve into Ash, our latest album, like I was having a very difficult time with my vocals. I couldn't get back to like how I was back in the old days. I wasn't practicing for like, years and years and years and all that. And like when I did, I didn't have the volume. I could maybe like hit some of the ranges, but I didn't have the volume. I didn't have any of like the dynamic stuff, like what I liked and like what obviously people like listening to. And so it was really funny because like, thank God, we had like pre-productive recordings of this like 5 times at Tim's Trailer Park Studios. And then there was one time where he was like, I was getting ready to like lay down like my final like pre-production vocals. And Tim's like, and I was all set for it. I was all amped. And I was just like, all right, man, it's only going to take me like an hour. Let's go. And all of a sudden Tim's like, can we just try something? Because he knew I was struggling. But like, I was just resolved like, I'm never going to get it back. I'm just old. I suck now, whatever. That was my mindset. And he was just like, just try this for a second. He was like, just act like you're yelling at your kids. I was like, all right, I'll try it, man. And honest to God, like something clicked. And it, right, man? He was like,
it was instantaneous. He became 1994 Steve Craig.
Yeah.
No way.
Instantly.
And he was like, don't worry about, sounding death metal-y. Don't worry about any of that. Just like, get your volume there. And something happened. I don't know what happened, but I'm very grateful.
To lay a little more praise on over and above what I already have done, your vocals in the MDF performance were fucking insane. Like I kept looking at my buddy Jimmy. I'm going, dude, that guy's voice, because you have this, you have about 3 different sort of voices that I can hear, and all of them you were nailing them just insanely. And I'm like, dude, he sounds like he did back in. Now, granted, you didn't, maybe in some respects, had you played 200 shows a year,
right, maybe
things would be different. I mean, that does happen. Sure. And the older you get, generally, it's harder to keep that going. But I was stunned. I mean, again, you were up against some fucking killer vocalists that entire fest, and I thought,
now like a lot of the stuff that went in to try to get that back. I worked extremely hard for like a couple years now to try to get remotely close to how it was in the old days.
You think it was a diaphragm issue? Like, was it a diaphragm issue?
Psychological issue.
Oh, really?
I do, man. Yeah, like there was something in my head that just needed to be broken off me. I don't know.
He got mad at me for a while.
Yeah, I did. I was like, dude, can't we just record this?
Nah, it was killer, man. So that's amazing. So so then we do the Withdrawal EP, and that comes out in 2018, I believe, right? I was listening to this just before I came on. I kept listening, and please do not take this as a denigrating.
You don't even have to explain yourself. We feel the same way.
No. I like it. I like that EP. But here's the thing. The one thing I noted big time was the guitar tone was significantly different on it. And I kept listening to it going, man, all right, please, again, don't take this like as a slight or that I'm shitting on the EP at all. But it was bugging the fuck out of me because I'm like, I've heard this guitar tone. Where do I know this guitar tone from? And then it clicked. November's Doom. I think that is a very Vito and Larry guitar tone. So I don't know what you did. Were you experimenting to change the Steve G's like, fuck this guy. Let's get out of here.
At the time, Sean recorded us, and he's younger, and he's like all into plugins and stuff.
Yeah,
That's
that
what
was
he
Sean.
used.
Yeah.
This next album, though, we finally got our fractals figured out. It's gonna fucking crush.
Yeah.
So
Totally back to your sound for sure.
It's gonna be like Majestic, but more.
But I truly don't think that this EP is bad at all. Do you
Well,
not own it? Is that what you're saying, or
Well,
what?
the sound isn't exactly. We never like honed in the sound. Like we never thought it captured the actual songs.
No,
That's the biggest
the
problem.
drums
with
don't
it.
sound right. The guitars don't sound right.
Yeah,
He's
there's
not
just
happy.
there's just something about it, and that was also one of the
We're warming up as a band
with
yet.
the recordings where my vocals weren't there yet.
Yeah,
You know, so that was a work in progress right there.
That's
for
us
me.
warming up.
I see it. Yeah. But the good news is Dana's on it, so she kind of saves it for you guys.
Yeah, she definitely did.
Dana, what was your experience doing that? Was that like your first big time recording thing? I imagine you've done other stuff, right?
In that capacity, yeah, I had never recorded anything vocally except for probably Six Flags Great America covers.
Right.
Anyway,
What kind of experience? What was that like for you to do that?
it was cool. In Silent Blur, I don't know if it was ever originally thought of like, oh, she needs to have a part in that. I just kept hearing the same like melody as I would listen to. They would upload it in Google Drive, and I'd listen to all the songs and everything. And I'm like, man, this is just really speaking to me, just having this layered melody over. And I think you asked me to, put something together, and it was cool. So I wrote the little riff on it because I couldn't unhear it. So
Well, I'm kind of curious. Was it a one take deal, or did it take multiple takes for you to kind of narrow it down?
Numbers.
I don't know. I think I just narrowed it down, and I came to practice. I was like, this is what I got, guys. What do you think? And then they were cool with
We
it.
dug it.
So
And those were lyrics though that you had written though, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you do much touring on that? Did you get any traction with that?
No, we played with Master.
That wasn't.
Oh, you went out with Master?
Yeah, in 2019.
Now, I assume you guys all, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know, but are you guys all like working dudes? Like you got jobs and
Yeah.
day jobs and family?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like a tour type opportunity, like a 5-week van tour, probably where do you sit on something like that? If it was just like a 4 or 5 band type thing, would that be something you'd ever entertain here in the States, or could you even do it?
Could happen. Yeah, could happen.
Okay.
I mean, we try to see if we could do something. I mean, it
Probably
takes
small.
some finagling for sure. But
At least a couple.
I mean, it's definitely something we would entertain.
A 2-week tour, something would be more obtainable.
Right.
But yeah, 5 is probably pushing it.
we don't.
Yeah, like my my
We definitely
buddy
right?
my buddy Kelly Schaefer, you guys probably know Atheist. I just saw them. I saw them the 1st of May in New York, and then I flew out to California. I flew to San Francisco to see Agalloch because John Holm's a good buddy of mine, and opened for Emperor. And I didn't realize it, but Atheist was in town the very next night, so I caught the next to the last show bookending that tour. But they did 25 shows in 28 days. That's
Wow.
Wow.
yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, and now he's got a lot of young guys. He's the old man in the band. He's got all young cats that are like 30 and under in the band. And, you know, that's a whole different sort of animal. But I just was curious if somebody approached you, because you know how it is, man. I mean, you go out on a tour like that, you're not sleeping very much.
Right.
You're probably roadieing a lot of your own shit. You got maybe 2 roadies and a sound guy or a light guy. I mean, you got to want to do it because you love doing it, not because you're thinking you're going to come home a millionaire or anything like
We'll
that.
do it, though.
Yeah, we do it.
Yeah, I think so. We just love playing, you know?
Do you have any big opportunities that you can't announce yet, but things on the table maybe for later this year or next year, maybe, as far as like fests or anything?
We're gonna play Milwaukee in August. We're gonna do a Killtown Deathfest.
Right, we talked about that one, yeah. But
A couple local ones in October.
Yeah, there's nothing really like brewing past like what we have set up right now.
you manage yourselves, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have a booking agent, I would assume, or
Say that again?
do you have a booking agent?
No. It's
No,
just
you
us.
can recommend one to
Yeah,
us.
we should.
I will definitely do that. Not here, but I will do
Anybody's
that.
listening, yeah, we need help. Yeah.
I think I can help you out. Let me talk to a couple people because I know.
We were talking about trying to get Evoken out to this area to play some shows with them, and maybe in the Midwest or something. So
Yeah, that will probably be brewing at some point, but
That would be a killer bill.
yeah.
I mean, they got a new album, I think, dropping relatively soon, maybe August, I think, or something like that. Let's talk about the new album real quick, and then I'll get you guys out of here because you probably got better shit to do and talk to this nerd here. So, Dissolved into Ash. Now, from what I understand, this is kind of a COVID album in terms of,
Yes.
you know, you guys we were all shut in for close to 2 years. Talk a little bit about that. Maybe every one of you just sort of take a stab at talking about the album in specific to how it came together from your perspective as far as writing, rehearsing, and where did you record this at?
We recorded it ourselves. Our drummer recorded himself at his house, and then we did the recording at my house, just on Reaper. And
really? No kidding?
Yeah.
We brought it to a studio to have kind of like looked over and made sure everything was kind of polished as best as possible.
So it was mixed by you guys too?
No, our friend David Pietala from Source Track Studio in Appleton did that.
Okay, he mixed it and then mastered it.
I recorded all the tracks, did my own mix, and then we're like, no, let's get it to somebody that actually does this all the time. You know? I do it for fun and for writing.
Right.
But, you know.
Well, it sounds great. I mean, I think it sounds better than this. I'm not gonna lie. It does have a better sound to it.
Oh, the next one's to give it a crush at. We didn't know what we were doing with our fractals.
Was this all plugins and Fractal?
Fractals, no plugins.
It's all
Yeah,
Fractal.
we're using diesel modules.
But we were
at the
very
time.
novice Fractal users at that time.
Yeah, and now we're using boosted, modified dual rectifiers, which that's what you heard at Maryland Deathfest.
So it is a dual rec sound that you're using then. Okay, that's kind of what
dual rec.
I could kind of hear that, and that's the sound you use live, right? And then
Yeah.
I'm boosted by a Tube Screamer. He uses a Maxon boost in his preset. So
man, guys, I'm telling you, there was a lot of good sounding shit there. I mean, you got Tom G and Triptychon. Their sound is almost hard to, but I think you guys, you two in particular, Tim and Steve, that guitar tone just had me. There's a lady present, so I won't say what I was going to say there, but I was super excited. Let's just put it that way. I was just like, God, I got to find out what fucking tone they're using because that shit was just lethal, man.
Yes.
well, we went direct with a cab IR to the PA, and the cab IR had like 8 cabinets blended into one.
Wow.
So it was 8 4x12s with like special speakers and everything, triple mic'd. I mean, we had a buddy of ours that's totally into this kind of stuff. He made us cab IRs, and we like them the best out of like the thousands you can choose from. So going direct to the PA and getting that saturated sound, yet not having the gate, you know, too hard on you, we're lucky, and then you can go out of output 2 to your stage rig. So that's how we did that.
Now, when you're practicing, are you also using the same rig? You're going through you're using the Axe effects as a preamp, or?
Yeah. For practice,
Okay.
we just go direct to a couple EV wedges that are on poles.
Wow.
Cabs at practice.
Yeah, we don't even bring guitar cabs to practice.
We'd like to.
I mean, if we were younger, we would. But
Yeah, right.
it's a lot.
The old back on the old man backs don't hold up to those things anymore. Yeah. Well, let's start with Dana. So this is your first like full-fledged album that you're on. You're on 4 of the 8 tracks, I believe there's 8. Yeah, 8 tracks. Give me a little rundown of, again, was it sort of similar to Withdraw, or did you feel you had more input this time, or?
Yeah, no, similar in a few ways. Dim Divide, I couldn't unhear that little melody at the end, the little icing. So that was, I brought it to them like, hey, I really love this. Is this cool? And they were cool with it. Yeah, in Aerial View, didn't you originally have clean vocals, and they were like, why don't you just do that? So that's why I tried to keep an homage to how he did it vocally. I kept just literally it's one note, right? And that's really hard to do as a singer and keep your pitch.
Yeah.
So it was cool. I wanted to, I never felt like I had to change that because it was exactly how he did it, and I just wanted to keep, in honor and respect what he wrote.
Well, Steve, that brings up a quick point though, Steve. Back on Majestic, that's you doing cleans in the chorusy, washy, choral parts, right? Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Just you, or are the other guys involved too, or no?
No, it was just me.
Just you. Okay. Go ahead, Dana. Sorry about that. I was just curious about that.
Dark brewing a candle and his hand on the shaft. Go there.
That's a secret, man.
Tim, anything different on this album for you than stuff in the past? And I will say, I did comment on this album, but the one thing I noticed on this album that's maybe slightly different, I'm going to use the S word here. I hear a little bit more of a sludgier vibe to it. And one thing in particular, you guys familiar with Yob?
No.
Yob, Mike Scheidt? All right. Check out the album Our Raw Heart by Yob, Y-O-B. You'll know what I'm talking about when you hear that album. I'm trying to remember this. It's the second track. Dim Divide and that track they probably made it and had babies. It's very symbiotic. You'll see what I mean. But the guitar tone, the sort of the chugga, you'll see what I mean. But I could hear more. I just could hear more sludge in this. Is that a fair assessment, or are you like, this guy's out of his fucking mind?
Do you think so? Okay, I thought it was so clean. It was too clean. Like this next album that we're writing, I want to crush everything I've ever done.
No, it's clean. It's just some of the chugging to me has.
I know a lot of the parts. Sometimes I write riffs and I just want to play them for like 5 minutes straight. But eventually, all things have to come to that. So,
is again like are all these tracks pretty much again on the new album? They were pretty much coalesced as a unit as opposed to singularly. Yeah. And then again, Steve, you're writing lyrics pre or post or what, or both?
I wrote all the lyrics post on this one.
I'm trying to get him to write a song out on paper, and then I'm going to write guitar parts to it.
Music around it, yeah.
9 years already, and he hasn't done it yet.
It's more like 9 months. I'm still working on it.
9 years. 19
years.
Well, it's cool. It's cool to see you guys laugh a lot together. That's very cool because a lot of bands can't be in the same room with each other after they play a gig. So it's pretty cool that you guys have the chemistry like that. I'm gonna skip you, Steve, for a second. Steve C. David, what about you? How was it for you? Because is this your not your first album that you recorded, right?
I have not recorded a note with them.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, that's right. Sean's on this one.
Sean's on the.
Sean started up a landscaping business and a snow plowing business, and up here in Wisconsin, you don't know when you're working or not. So we just
Pretty busy normally.
we didn't have a drummer that we could, we're getting old and we
count on, yeah.
So
he had to, though, because of COVID, it wasn't necessary, right? So he ran sound for a very reputable theater in Green Bay. So they just shut
down on him.
And he had to figure out how to make a living.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's actually kind of crazy considering the time and how stupid.
For sure. Yeah, that was a crazy time during that era.
You guys have a great style that we like.
Yeah.
We actually think it fits a little bit better for what we're doing. So we're more than excited for what we're going to be coming out with.
Yeah,
How did you come by David again? I'm sorry.
We knew.
Oh, you knew him already. Okay.
We
Dave knows everybody.
we knew each other through the scene. The Chicago and the Milwaukee or Wisconsin scenes are pretty close. I've known Steve Crane for a number of years. I think him and I talked the most out of everybody. So he sent me a message in desperation, that I had less than 2 months, to learn this material, and I was beyond stoked, because like I mentioned before, huge fan of the band, and it was actually an honor and a privilege to be able to be the drummer that played Majestic in its entirety for the first time ever, as a fan first and foremost. So.
Was it hard to get it all down in time, or you?
It was pretty brutal to try to
6 weeks
to do it justice, and I never got sick of listening to the songs. Surprisingly, normally that happens when you're But I love the recording, and it was a brutal process, but definitely worth it, and I'm very fortunate to have been able to do it, and I'm glad that it happened, and these guys were happy with it, with how it came out. So,
Steve, some thoughts on this, and then we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, man.
You go first, Well,
It's like a stepping stone to what we're finally fine tuning to be as a band.
Yeah, it was a collaboration of Tim had music, I had music. We kind of put them together. We get together, practice it, got together. Sean wrote some drum parts. It was cool stuff. Some of the songs are cool. I think we can do a lot better. Like Tim's saying, the next album's going to crush, and I agree with him. Its guitar tone's going to be right up your alley. You're going to love it.
Uber chugger.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a good stepping stone for where we're going. I mean, it's like I think it has some pretty decent riffs in that album.
Yeah, they're still fun to play.
Yeah, it's not bad in any opinion. It's just I think we could do better. But it was
Tim. At some point, you're gonna have to maybe drug him up and make him play a solo or something like that.
We'll get him in there somewhere. Hot licks, rip it up.
The last song we ever make, we're gonna dub one. We're gonna give Steve gross credit for it.
Cool.
No, man, I love the album, actually. I mean, listening to where our tones and stuff are now, I agree. I think the next stuff's gonna sound and just be better. But the songs themselves, there's a lot of great parts that I still listen to. I'm like, I really like that, and just how it all happened through the craziest time since I've been alive, and how we were able to make that happen and have something good come out of that. I mean, I just think it's cool,
You're talking about new material. Are you pretty deep into that already at this point?
Just getting started.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay.
We're working on some stuff today. I'm pretty excited to say it's going to be pretty neat.
Now, do you have a record label? Are you on Dark Symphonies, or what's the story there?
Ted basically wants to be the be all end all for all of our material. So he's willing to do anything for us, and he's been extraordinary to us. He's goes above and beyond, and he's one of the greatest dudes and the greatest label for a band.
Is this Dark Symphonies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, where are they out of? Because I honestly never heard of them
I think
before.
it's Massachusetts.
Okay. Yeah, what other bands are on their
Well,
roster?
mostly, we're the only band that they've ever put out any new material.
Oh, they reissue stuff.
Yeah, he's like does tons of reissues.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he wants to do he wants you guys to do a full album that he's going to get behind.
I mean, he's the one who put that one out and put out
Oh, right.
Withdrawal as well.
Right. Dark Descent too? Were they involved?
Dark Descent distributes all of Ted's stuff.
Okay, Matt's pretty cool dude, man.
Dark Symphonies, yeah.
Yeah, Matt's cool dude, man. I met him out in Denver. Yeah, man, we got to get you like on one of the the Decibel Fest, man.
Yeah.
I got to talk to Albert. He's a buddy of mine.
Please do.
Yeah. We'll do that. I'll touch base with him. But all right, so new album sometime, maybe 26, maybe later, something like that, right?
This winter.
More than likely, we'll be working on this one.
This winter we'll write one.
Oh, this coming winter, you're going to work on it then. Okay, cool. You got a show in August in a local show in Milwaukee, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you said you're playing Killtown, which is in September.
The beginning of September. Yeah.
Okay. You excited about that, getting overseas like that?
I definitely am.
That's good fest. I don't think a buddy of mine, Evan, he knows, he said that David's not involved in that anymore. I think David's partner in that took that over entirely, but David's a cool guy, man. He's done a lot for, he's Extremely Rotten Productions. That's his label. But all right, guys. Well, I did the best I could. I screwed up a couple times, though. I forgot some of the timeline stuff. I
We
apologize.
don't even know what we're
Oh
talking
man,
about.
you did great.
I'm old. I'll just pass it off to that, like really old. It's like way past my bedtime. No, I'm just kidding. I will definitely talk to some people, and I'll get back to you
We
then.
appreciate that.
A couple quick things. We've got your Facebook and your Bandcamp and your Instagram, I believe, and then I have your link tree is there as well in the description. Is there anything you want to pimp out there in terms of like where to find the stuff that I may have missed?
We need to update a lot of our social media.
Yeah,
link
we
tree stuff.
sold out of like every single CD and record that we had when we played in MDF. So we're trying to like restock a lot of our stuff. Ted, who runs Dark Symphonies, sent us like a little care package to get us through these next couple shows. So he sent us some CDs and albums. So that was super cool of him to do. But yeah, we're in the process of getting all that up and running right now. And
You got a social media person helping you?
no,
No?
it's just
Tim.
us.
You're figuring it out? Tim's doing it?
Tim does.
I kind of do a lot.
Tim does
because I know how to
everything.
use copy paste. I know.
Yeah,
I do
one of
Instagram.
Tim, do you have one of those rubber stampers? Do you still have the rubber stamper anywhere?
Exactly.
But everything's Dusk USA official. We should get that out. There's
Yeah.
80 bands named themselves Dusk after we did, and
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that. There's dust everywhere.
Yeah.
put Dusk USA official. Everybody's still like, I can't find you. It's like,
Yeah.
well,
One thing I noted, and maybe I'm wrong about this, I'll have to go double check, but I went to get this on Dark Symphonies. Well, first I went to Dark Descent, and they don't have it. They only have the Withdrawal and the Dissolve CDs. They didn't have any vinyl at all at Dark Descent.
Yeah. And I think Matt sold out of what he had.
Probably, yeah. But I went to Dark Symphonies to grab this, and the new one, actually. And the thing I ran into, and maybe I'm wrong here, but it was coming up that it was coming from, like, overseas. Is that right?
The album itself.
Yeah, like the shipping was in euros, not in dollars.
Oh, that I'm not sure of. I know that the albums themselves are pressed overseas, but I'm not.
Yeah, but this was linking me to buy.
That's kind of weird. I'm not sure about
You
that.
might want to look into that. Just saying.
Okay, I will.
I got my copy at Shadow Kingdom, which is, you guys probably have heard of Hell's Headbangers, I would assume.
Oh yeah.
I won't say much about them, but they do all the fulfillment for Shadow Kingdom.
Okay. Cool.
And Shadow Kingdom's got some cool stuff. And it was It was reasonable. I don't know what I paid for this, maybe $22.99 or something like that. I can't remember. With shipping, it was under 30. And nowadays, albums are stupidly going into like $35, $40, which is they're gouging again, man. They're gouging. The labels are gouging again. But yeah, any final words from anybody?
Man, just thanks for having us out.
Yeah, we really appreciate. We love your show.
Oh,
We're new to it. I've watched some of it. I really appreciate all that you do. We're an underground band that's, trying to like make a name for ourselves, and everything that you said about us and all of the words that you said about us, really cool. We're just really happy that you took the time out to reach out to us.
Sure, man. I appreciate it. Oh, there was one other thing. The shirts, you're reprinting, rather, I should say.
Yes.
The MDF 20 shirts, which I missed out on because when I went back over, they had shut down. I think all the shirts were sold out, I believe.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They sold out pretty quick.
So what's going on with those? Have you printed those yet, or
did you order? Oh yeah, I have yours actually. I just made the order yesterday.
Yeah.
I got them. I'm gonna ship them out in like the next 2 days.
All right, no problem, man. So that was just sort of a one-time thing, though, right?
Yeah, that it's over now. That was just kind of like because there was so many people that reached out saying that they missed it, that were at the show, and so then we just figured that we'd give them the opportunity since it was like an overwhelming response we weren't prepared for.
That's super cool, though, man. That's super cool, right?
Oh yeah. It was baffling, crazy,
Well, we should, and I forget their damn names. The two guys that run MDF,
Evan and Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan and what was it?
Evan.
Adam.
Evan.
Oh, Evan. Right. We should shout those guys out, man, because there is, in my opinion, no festival like that in the States. Everything is done great. The one thing I was really blown away by was my only complaint is that sometimes you had to leave a set you were watching to go catch somebody else at the beginning, to get a spot. That's the only thing. It sucked. But with that many bands, like 85 bands, you're going to have a little bit of overlap. But that night for you guys, whoa. Uh-oh, we lost them. Uh-oh. Oh, we lost them. Well, we might be done there, guys. Sorry. Not sure what happened to them. Oh, hold on. Oh, the laptop died, so we're done. Hang on a minute here. Oh, wait, they're reconnecting. Hang on a minute. So while we're waiting for them to pop back on, a couple of show notes. The 19th of July, Rick from the Dreadful Minutes and Jake from the Upside Down Church. We're going to be doing the whole Swallow the Sun catalog. And then the next night after that, on the 20th, Dennis O.G. Press from Analog Archives. He's going to join me for Forgotten Metal Gems of the 80s and 90s. We're going to be doing Lizzie Borden, the 80s and 90s albums, and the Anthem albums from then. So, hey guys,
sorry, man.
Sorry.
That's cool. I don't have a visual, but we'll just wrap up here because you guys have better shit to do. But wanted to thank you so much for being here. I'm gonna hit you up, Steve, probably on your Instagram just because it's easier. I don't have to type up an email. I got some ideas on promoters. I'll get back to you on that in a couple days.
We're always up for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
And I don't know what your thought on it is, but I do know somebody that maybe management that might be interested in helping you out. I know that maybe you're not looking at that, but I do have a name or two that might be interested. So
that's excellent. Yeah, hook us up.
Yeah, I'll throw those your way. Final thoughts. Just thanking the fans.
Yeah, so much. We're just very thankful that anyone wants to talk to us about our music at all. So it's like anytime that we have this opportunity, we're just always humbled, baffled, and we just love talking about our little band, So
Well, it's killer, man. Thank you so much. My apologies to Dave and Dana for not having as much for you guys to talk about.
Don't worry
But
about it, man. It's all good.
you're an integral part of the band. You guys were fantastic live.
These
There
three,
are videos out there on YouTube of the full performance that are probably better than mine, but I did post, I think mine are in 2 batches, but I did post the bulk of what I had. I think my arm was pretty much dead by the end of your set, so I was like struggling to get the last track in, but I think I got most of it. And yeah, man, so guys, keep up the good work. Looking forward to a new album, and I think that's it.
Well, thank you very much, man.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
By the way, Steve C.,
Yes.
when you said you watched some of my my channel, did I say fuck a lot?
You said it more than you did today.
You're right, exactly. Dana, I was trying to respect you as a lady. I am being honest about that. I was really going to try not to say it, but yeah, I say it a lot. So my show is not for the timid. If you don't like foul language, my apologies.
You're all
No
good.
fucks given. All right, guys, thank you so much, and have a great night. All right, I really appreciate
All right,
you giving me
cheers.
that much time.
Thank
All
you.
right, see you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Have a
Peace
good one.
out.